providing half of the money to run a state of 38 million people. It's not sustainable. So what happens? Well, when the economy booms, man, revenues to the state boom. We've had a 20% year-over-year increase, right? Well, what does the legislature do? Well, they spend it all, right? And it's not because they're bad people. I mean, legislature, you run for office, you want to help people, and so often in government, when you have money, you spend it trying to help people. You know, and you hear heartbreaking stories, and you go, okay, well, let's try and address that problem. And so, we have a revenue problem in that our revenues are unstable, and we have a spending problem in that we spend every penny we get every single year on recurring, ongoing programs, and then we build in automatic increases. And so the solutions are actually fairly simple to know. They're politically hard to do. The first solution is an overall tax code change that comes in and says, how do we make our tax code flatter, fairer, simpler, more stable? It's politically difficult because the only way to make it flatter, fairer, more simpler is to reduce taxes on the wealth. That would flatten it, and it's politically hard. But we need to update our tax code. And there's going to be a debate between now and the end of the year. Jerry Parsky, some of you may know, chaired a commission that put forward a series of recommendations, and I think we need to look at it. We need to say, how do we bring our tax code into the modern era where so much has changed? The second thing we could do is just put in place a spending cap. To simply say that state government can't grow in excess of population and inflation. If you go back to 1999, I forget the exact number, Gray Davis's budget was roughly $65 billion for 1999. If you adjust that forward for population growth, it gets you to like 76, 77. If you adjust it forward for inflation, it gets you to about 85 billion, right? So if over the last 10 years we had only grown in population and inflation, it'd be about 85. All the cuts we've made, you know what number we cut down to? 85. If government had only grown at the rate of population and inflation over the last 10 years, we wouldn't have any budget deficit. And we would have had billions of dollars in excess that we either could have invested in infrastructure, critical infrastructure. We could have used to pay down debt. I'm really concerned about the debt levels and debt ratios for the state of California. It's one of the fastest growing areas of the state budget is our debt service on bonds. And we could have returned it to the taxpayers consistent with the original GAN limit that was out there. So the budgeting's a mess. The final thing I tell you on the budget reform is zero-based budgeting I totally agree with. I mean, just line it out and say what do you do? The second is we don't need to automatically increase programs each year. You need to come back and justify why you need more, how you use what you had before, why you need more. And another change that would be helpful would be a 2-year budget. Because what happens is too often the legislature, there's not the oversight. So we do budget all year long. We pass the deadline. Everybody gets upset. We issue IOUs. We pass the budget, and then everybody leaves. And then we come back and we start budget all over again. So my argument is take 1 year, maybe the first year of the term, and do the budget. But do a 2-year budget with some triggers. And prioritize A, B, and C. With as revenues come in, these are the programs that we'll fund. And then you come back that second year and you just do oversight over the agencies. How are you spending it? Where are you spending it? Where is it going? What is it? What are we getting for it? How do we measure, this program? Is it being effective? Is it not from a zero-based standpoint? And I think if you did those changes, you would do well. So hang on one second. Bye. Yeah, that's good. I'll come back to you, Jared. Sure. Yeah.
So a member of student government there. I'm in my second year. And I'm also representing the UC Student Association, which is the official voice of over 200,000 students across the UC system. I'd like to direct a conversation toward higher education, and I'd like to give you some background on it. Last year, many of you probably know that the
legislation in
The
mind?
language is
I
yet
suspect
to
you
be
do. Why don't you
determined.
just tell them what the piece of legislation is, and I'll tell you my position on it.
Well, we're, like I said, we're trying to make funding for Cal Grant permanent. Well, that's...
It's not the Tarico bill? The one that the press conference was on last week?
No, we're still
Okay.
different authors.
So I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to give you part of it you're going to like and part of it you're really not going to like. But I'll just walk you through it. I think that the UC system is critically important to the economic health of California. I think it has a huge role to play in terms of not only our higher education, but our ability to do research and development and to innovate and to train and prepare. And we've worked very, very hard with UCSD. I mentioned the engineering building earlier. We've been out at the Shape Table. We've done a lot of Cal IT Squared. I'm very, very interested. And so I will tell you, I do support increasing funding to the University of California. You used to be 7% of the general fund. The UC system used to get 7% of the general fund. You know what you get now? 3%. It's been more than cut in half as a percentage of the general fund because other entities have a more powerful lobby than you do. And so I do think that your funding should be increased. I also think that we need to make sure that the children that come out of low-income areas have the ability to go and are given that pathway. So there's equality of access, equality of opportunity. The part you're really not going to like, though, is I think at a certain point we've got to look at an overall reform of the health of the University of California. You know, as kids that are going to the University of California are paying, what is it now? Is it $8,000? What's tuition?
It's going to be, well, with the increase, it's going to be over $10,000.
Over $10,000 for probably a $35,000 a year education. I think the University of California, San Diego is on par with any private university in America. I think it is, especially from an engineering and science and research standpoint. And I think at a certain point, I talked to one higher education official in California, who asked not to go to him because it was controversial. He said, I could triple tuition and not lose a single student because there's that much elasticity in the price. Right? So I'm not proposing tripling your tuition, but I think we need to have overall reform of the UC system. Right? What do you pay to go to UCSD? The same thing you pay to go to UC Riverside. I asked somebody, I said, well, why is it? They go, well, they're the same. I said, well, if they're the same, take all the professors and switch them. They won't mind. Well, they're not the same. And so I'd like to see an overall reform of the University of California system where we say, hey, San Diego is going to be the research and development, biotechnology center of the world. UCLA is going to be the business center of the world. Berkeley is going to be the law center. Davis is going to be the ag center. And then we start putting in place some flexibilities that have a little bit more market influence. I think tuition ought to be pegged a little bit more to supply and demand. And I think that there's an overall reform of the UC system that will bring it in to the modern era and restore it to its place of prominence. But that might include further tuition increases for students that can afford to pay.
Well, I'd just like to clarify that this bill would not increase funding, it would just
Protect it. And the Cal Grant stuff is a good one. I'd be happy to take a look. I can't commit on a bill I haven't seen, but I'd be happy to take a look at it. There's another one